Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. We start today's video with a story that proves even in the quietest small towns, some people will go out of their way to create drama, even if it means wasting police time over absolutely nothing. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. You're not at your desk? I'm calling the cops. I work for a car rental place. It's a small location in a very small town, and I'm the only employee who runs the shop. That means on top of handling reservations and paperwork, I'm also the one responsible for picking up customers, dropping off cars for service, shuttling vehicles to and from the body shop. You name it, I do it. Whenever I have to step out, I make sure I'm not overlapping with any existing reservations. I lock up the office, post a sign on the door explaining I'm out on a customer run, and I leave a phone number so anyone who comes by can call me directly. 9 times out of 10, no one even calls. It's a small town. People get it. Well, almost everyone. Yesterday, I just finished dropping off a customer at a body shop, which is maybe a 5 to 10 minute round trip. As I'm pulling out of the body shop's lot, my phone rings. Me, thanks for calling company. How can I help you? Her, hi, will you be back soon? I don't have much time. Pretty normal so far, except I noticed she sounded a little rushed, maybe agitated. But here's the thing, she didn't have a reservation. No prior call, no heads up she was coming by. Me, yes ma'am, just finishing up a drop-off. I should be back in about 5 to 10 minutes. Her, I'll be waiting. And then she hung up. Fine, whatever. I started heading back toward the office, figuring this would be quick. 2 minutes later, my phone rings again. Her, sir, I just can't let you do this. Me, do what? Her, abandoning your store like this. I can't just let that happen. I'm calling the cops if you don't get back here right now. At this point, I actually let out a laugh because I thought I must have misunderstood. Me, ma'am, that won't really be necessary. I'm already on my way, just a few minutes out. The police don't need to... Click, she hung up again. Okay, now I'm a little concerned, but I kept driving, thinking surely she wouldn't actually waste police time over this. Oh, how wrong I was. I pull into the lot maybe 4 minutes later, and sure enough, there she is standing near the door with 2 police officers next to her. They both have this look on their faces like they've just been dragged into something absolutely ridiculous, and they're trying to figure out how to handle it without bursting out laughing. I park, get out, and the officers walk over. Cops. Hi there, what's the problem here? Me, completely dumbfounded. I honestly have no idea. I just stepped out for a quick customer drop-off like the sign says. The cops glance at each other, then at the woman, then back at me. It's clear they've already spoken to her, and it's just as clear they're struggling to take this seriously. Cops. Yeah, we figured. She was just concerned, I guess. Well, we hope you have a better day. They gave me a sympathetic look and got back in their car. The woman didn't even try to come inside after that. She just stood there for a moment, then turned and left without saying another word. I stood there for a second trying to process what had just happened. This woman had been waiting all of 6 minutes, max, after I knew she even existed. 6 minutes. I waited longer for my fries at a fast food drive-thru, and she called the cops over a car rental employee stepping out for a customer run. I went inside, shook my head, and went back to work. The rest of the day was quiet, thankfully. But I'll tell you what, if anyone ever tells you small-town car rental's boring, I have a story for them. I imagine if it were that close to the center of town, the police station's like a block or 2 away. It'd be like, Sam, Kurt, walk across the street and see what's going on at the car rental place. Bring me back a bag of chips from the Busy Bee. And our second story. Karen tried to get me kicked out of my favorite bookstore. I'm German. This story happened about a month ago when I went to a bookstore near me. Support local businesses, because I wanted to get some new manga and see if there was anything else that might be interesting to read. The store belongs to an older lady and her husband. One of them is always there, and they also usually have 1 or 2 employees working at a time. The books for young adults, children, teenagers, and special interest stuff like manga, comics, and books that aren't in German are all upstairs. The store is small enough that if you need help upstairs, you can just call for an employee and they'll hear you downstairs. I went on a Tuesday at around 10 or 11 a.m., not the busiest time, and when I went in and made my way upstairs, there were only 3 other customers, the old lady, and 1 employee. I was looking at some books when the employee came up to me with a guy around my age, 19 or 20-ish, and asked if I could help them for a second. She told me she didn't speak English and that the guy didn't speak German, and since I sometimes buy books in English, she wanted to know if I could look for whatever he needed with them. I agreed and asked the guy what he was looking for. He told me he wanted to buy a book for his 13-year-old sister so she could practice reading in German. We went over to the German books for kids around her age. I asked some things about her so I could recommend a few books I read when I was her age. In the end, we found 2 books that seemed like they'd help her out, and he thanked me before making his way downstairs to pay for them. I went back to the manga section to finally pick something out for myself when this lady came up to me and said, "Excuse me, I want to buy a book for my son." I replied, "Oh, I don't work here, but there are employees downstairs that can help you out." I thought that would be it, but then she said, "Of course you work here. You just helped that other guy." I didn't want to argue with her, but I answered, "I helped him because he didn't speak German and no one else spoke English, and I'm not even wearing a uniform. The employees wear a fancy uniform." A drastic difference compared to the skirt and sweater I was wearing. Her face went a little red, and she said, "Well, but you helped him, so now you can help me." She then grabbed my arm and dragged me to the section with books for younger boys, pointing at a book that was pretty high up on the shelf. "Get it down for me," she demanded. At this point, I was kind of angry. "I told you already I don't work here. There are 2 people downstairs that can help you, and I'm literally shorter than you, 155 centimeters, 5'1", the shortest person in the whole entire store. So leave me alone and ask someone else." She did not like that answer. "Who do you think you are talking to me like that, young lady? I'll get you kicked out of this store. How dare you? You're supposed to help me," she yelled at me. I was kind of scared because I'm not confrontational at all and didn't know how to stop her when the owner showed up and asked us what was going on. She was rude to me after I kindly asked her to help me and then tried to assault me. "Kick her out," she shouted. I tried to do what now, is what I thought, and so did the owner because she looked at me with the same confused expression I assumed I had. I explained to her that I had just let the lady know I didn't work here and that someone downstairs could help her. I also mentioned that the lady dragged me through the store and then started yelling at me. Since the owner knew me as a regular customer, she knew I wouldn't do what the lady accused me of and promptly kicked her out. I got a discount for helping out the guy and having to deal with the lady, and they even offered to call the police, which I declined. Then I went home. I haven't seen the lady again, and I hope it stays that way. This woman didn't care whether you worked there or not. She wanted service, and in her mind, that meant you had to comply. When you didn't, she threw a tantrum because her authority, real or imagined, was challenged. And our next story. Karen thought she could vandalize my Jeep for parking in front of her house. A few weeks ago, I parked my Jeep on the street, half in front of my house, half in front of Karen's. It wasn't blocking any driveways, wasn't on her lawn, and definitely wasn't violating any city ordinance or HOA rule. Just standard street parking like every other car on the block. With 3 small kids and 2 businesses to run, my wife and I don't overthink it as long as the car's parked legally and out of the way. But apparently Karen had been simmering about it. I was walking back from the mailbox, balancing my 6-month-old on my hip, when she came storming out of her house like she'd been lying in wait. Late 50s, hair sprayed to high heaven, always out in her yard with a pair of clippers or peeking through her blinds like she's guarding state secrets. No greeting, no, "Hey, could we chat for a sec?" Just, Karen. "You shouldn't be parking there," she barked, jabbing a finger toward my Jeep like it had personally insulted her begonias. "You ought to know better." I was so thrown I didn't even have time to respond before she spun around and marched back to her porch, leaving me standing there in the afternoon heat, baby in one arm, mail in the other, wondering what the hell had just happened. Look, I get it. Maybe I hadn't stopped to consider if my parking spot annoyed her, but I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was at least partially in front of my own house. The Jeep wasn't some eyesore, and there was plenty of room for everyone to get by. What really got me was how she handled it. No friendly neighborly request, no conversation, just a drive-by scolding. I let it go, figured she'd cool off. I kept parking legally where I always did, and for a while, things were quiet. Too quiet. Then one morning, I came out to buckle the kids into their seats, and my stomach dropped. A deep, ugly scratch ran the length of the driver's side of my Jeep, from the fender to the door, like someone wanted to make sure I couldn't miss it. I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly who it was. I checked my security cameras. Sure enough, there was Karen in the middle of the night creeping along the curb with something in her hand. She slowed right by my Jeep and dragged whatever she was holding along the paint. The footage was crystal clear. I called the police and filed a report. When they saw the video, they agreed this was straight-up vandalism. I waited, thinking maybe Karen would come clean, apologize, offer to make it right. Nope, she pretended like nothing happened, like I wouldn't have the guts to do anything about it. But I did. I filed in small claims court. I had the repair bill, the video footage, everything. Karen tried to deny it until the video played in court. The judge didn't hesitate. She was ordered to pay for the full repair costs, plus my filing fees. At the end of the day, it wasn't about the money. It was about standing up for myself. If Karen thought she could key my car over a parking spot on a public street and get away with it, she thought wrong. Instead of talking like an adult, she took the petty route, sneaking out at night to key your car like a teenager with a grudge. The stupidity of doing this in the age of security cameras is almost impressive. Did she really think you wouldn't check? And our last story. The HOA is attacking the wrong person. When I first started looking for a house, I was warned that HOAs are like a special kind of cult best avoided. One story in particular scared me, about an elderly woman, Mrs. Johnson, who used to live in this very neighborhood a few years ago. She was a sweet 78-year-old grandma, beloved for her apple pies. But the local HOA constantly terrorized her with fines for the tiniest infractions: grass too tall, flowers the wrong color, a mailbox 1 centimeter too high. They even made her repaint her fence because the shade of white wasn't approved. The ongoing pressure eventually caused her to have a heart attack. Thankfully, she survived, and her son took her to live with him in Florida, where she recovered and finally found peace. I was sure that kind of thing wouldn't happen to me. With over 10 years on the police force, I thought it'd take a lot to surprise me. When I moved into the new neighborhood, the HOA reps greeted me, politely reminded me of the local rules, and hinted that breaking them wasn't advised. I nodded, said goodbye, and assumed that would be the end of it. But within just a few days, I realized my life was about to get more interesting than expected. I decided to install security cameras for peace of mind, and I'd barely started mounting the first one by the front door when I noticed 2 men approaching my yard in strange uniforms. Their outfits proudly displayed the words HOA Patrol. I was confused. I hadn't seen anything about such a unit in the official neighborhood documents. "What are you doing here?" snapped the older one, a man in his 40s with a face that had clearly seen better days. "Installing cameras for my home security," I replied calmly. "You're violating HOA rules. This is an invasion of your neighbor's privacy," he continued, raising his voice. Sensing that this conversation was taking a strange turn, I tried to explain that the cameras were pointed only at my yard and the street in front of my house, but the man clearly wasn't interested in listening. "Take it down now or we'll detain you," he barked, aggressively resting his hand on a pistol strapped to his belt. His partner, younger but just as arrogant, stepped forward in support of the threat. That was too much, even for me. I slowly reached for my wallet and revealed my real police badge. "Gentlemen, you've just made a big mistake," I said, trying not to smile at the shocked look on their faces. Instead of backing off, they kept trying to keep up the act, but when an actual police unit arrived at my house, everything changed. An investigation revealed that there was no official HOA patrol. These men were imposters, unofficially appointed by the HOA president, the very same woman who once terrorized poor Mrs. Johnson. Her goal had been to control the neighborhood as much as possible by instilling fear. As a result, the 2 men were charged with making armed threats and impersonating authority figures. The fake HOA patrol was disbanded immediately, and the HOA president was forced to resign after numerous lawsuits from residents. Once the truth came out, my previously silent neighbors came together and demanded a full revision of the rules. Our neighborhood finally became a peaceful place again, where people no longer feared stepping outside. The best part of the story? One Thanksgiving, I received a greeting card from Mrs. Johnson herself. She wrote, "Thank you for not letting them win. I always believed in justice." That was the moment I knew I'd done the right thing. The HOA never stopped surprising with various disasters. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.